everyone, a very warm welcome to today's session जहाँ पे हम करने वाले हैं discuss processes or with which the population keeps changing. So the title of the session is Process of Population Change. This is in continuation to the session that we were doing yesterday. ये आज हम उसका दूसरा हिस्सा कर रहे हैं. Let me quickly introduce myself. हाय बच्चों, मेरा नाम अंकना है और मैं हूँ आपकी एक्सपर्ट फॉर सोशल साइंसेज एट एम्बाइब. एज यू कैन सी, आई कम विद एन एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ मोर देन 9 years in the field of education, wherein I've taught both ICSE and CBSE students online and offline, and I have personally done my studies in the field of humanities. So that was a quick introduction about myself. Now the chapter that we are doing is human resources. If you broadly look at this chapter, it can be segregated in these three topics, which is human resources and distribution of population, the process of population change, and population composition. The very first one, which is the human resource and its distribution, we have already done in the previous session, which was yesterday. आज बचा हुआ बाकी का चैप्टर हम फिनिश करेंगे, जहाँ हम ये समझेंगे कि कहीं भी पॉपुलेशन क्यों चेंज होती है, कैसे चेंज होती है, कैसे असेस कर सकते हैं, और किसी भी जगह की पॉपुलेशन जो है, हाउ इज इट कंपोज, हाउ डज इट लुक लाइक. So in terms of the concepts, we're going to talk about the population change, its growth, the other factors which is responsible for the change of population, birth rate, death rate, natural growth rate, what is migration, immigration, emigration समझेंगे हम. You might have heard people going through the process of immigration and emigration while they're traveling. तो वो भी हम यहाँ पे समझेंगे. पैटर्न्स जो होती हैं चेंज करने के पॉपुलेशन की जो ब्रेक डाउन करके कॉम्पोजिशन है, सेक्स रेशियो, लिटरेसी रेट, रूरल अर्बन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, एज कॉम्पोजिशन, ये सब कुछ वी आर गोइंग टू हैव अ डिस्कशन एट, एंड देन पॉपुलेशन पिरामिड, एंड देन द शेप्स ऑफ पॉपुलेशन पिरामिड. ठीक है, so let's start with a quick recap. In the previous session we basically read that humans are the most important resources. हमारे आसपास बच्चे जब भी हम देखते हैं, we find a lot of natural resource, right? We see water, we see sun, we see coal, we see petroleum, n number of things. But all of those resources have only become useful or have their utility, have their worth and value because humans need them. हम इंसानों को उसकी ज़रूरत होती है, उससे उसकी worth define होती है. Plus it is our knowledge, our skill and technology which we have used to interact with the natural resources, and then we have converted these natural resources into what they are today, from where they get their value. So that makes humans the most important resource because it is their knowledge, their technology developed by them, their skill that brings these natural resources into a condition where we can utilize them. Plus it is only our ability, our requirement which is giving them that importance, giving them that definition, right? So human resources shape the value of the natural resources through their demands, through their abilities to convert them, consume them. Population distribution जो है is basically where and how many people stay. Now this distribution is uneven, it's not evenly done. Why? Because it depends on a lot of factors, social factors, cultural factors, economic factors, geographical factors like the climate, soil, availability of water, availability of how the terrain is, how the landform is. All of these factors together determine that where people will be staying in a denser population and where in less. In general, when we see dense areas in Asia and sparse regions में, like high altitudes and deserts, like the polar regions and the deserts, the population is sparse, it's less, it's kind of scanty. So factors हम समझ चुके हैं. फिर हमने देखा साउथ सेंट्रल एशिया जो है, वहाँ पे हाईएस्ट पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी है. पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी डिफाइंस द नंबर ऑफ पीपल फाउंड ओवर द सरफेस ऑफ अर्थ ऑन व्हेन मेजर्ड ओवर अ सर्टेन यूनिट, अ स्पेसिफिक यूनिट एरिया. ठीक है, then based on how many people are found where, based on the population density, we have 3 zones. हमारे पास है dense वाला zone where more people stay than the amount of area that is available. The example Ganga Plains. Moderate where better facilities and cultural significance becomes an important factor, which is where the amount of area is proportional to the population that is staying over there. It's moderate. जितने होने चाहिए उतने लोग हैं. And then you have sparse population, which means sparse density. Area ज़्यादा है, लोग जो वहाँ रह रहे हैं वो कम है. The availability of area, land and resources is more, but the people staying and utilizing it is less. Most people live in Asia and Africa. Asia is the highest populated continent, followed by Africa, with 10 countries of these continents holding over 100 million, which is more than 60% of the entire world's population. in each of them, roughly. Now, have you ever heard the term millennial? You might have heard. By the way, I'm a millennial, okay? Gen Z तो आपने सुना ही होगा. You might have heard people saying, oh, you're a Gen Z or you're generation alpha. ये सब सुना है हमने. What does this basically signify? It refers to periods when people were born. But how are we doing this segregation? So every time a big change came, like internet revolution, like the dot-com bubble, all of these things, जब भी कोई बड़ा change आया, TV आया, तो एक नई lifestyle शुरू होती है, and that is how the generation is kind of named. ठीक है, जैसे war से एक generation शुरू हुई क्योंकि जिंदगी में लोगों के बहुत बदलाव आ गया था. So millennials are people born between 1981 to 1996. Gen Zs are between 97 to 2012. And after 2012 is Generation Alpha, which is 2013 to 2025 roughly. Now, millennials constitute a significant portion of the world population at present. Makes sense? 1981 से 1996 की बात की जा रही है. This is the working population of every country and the most dominant one at present. The world's population has undergone a huge change over the last 100 years and is still changing. Why? Because population is a dynamic phenomenon. It's a phenomenon which keeps on evolving and changing with the time. It doesn't stay constant. So let's understand about that and its effect. So population change, बच्चे किस चीज को रेफर करता है? What does population change even mean? Population change basically means the number of people who were existing, ठीक है, earlier. From that, what has it become now? For example, if I go and do a study of 1975 to 1985, how the population was of India and how it looks right now is very, very different. So what do we understand? The population has changed. So population change is basically the number of people over a specific time, if it has increased, if it has decreased, whatever has happened based on that. Historically, slow growth happens because of high death rates and limited food supply. Significant increase was observed post 1800s due to better healthcare and food availability. तो अब यहाँ पे एक नया टर्म आ गया है, डेथ रेट और फूड सप्लाई. तो हमें पता है डेथ रेट और बर्थ रेट दो टर्म्स है जो हम पढ़ेंगे अभी थोड़ी देर में. वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस अबाउट द डेथ रेट एंड बर्थ रेट. बट इन शॉर्ट, इफ आई हैव टू टेल यू, it's very simple, right? If the number of people who are dying, ठीक है, is more than the number of people who are born, births जो हो रहा है, number of people who are getting born is less than the number of people who are dying, naturally over a period of time population जो है, number जो available है alive humans की, वो कम हो जाएगी, है ना? जैसे मान लो 500 लोग हैं कहीं पे, there are 500 people. Now the number of people who die over here are 50, which means 450 are alive. Okay, but there were of course some people born as well. Let's say 35 were born. ठीक है, तो अब ये 35 इस population में add हो जाता है, but ultimately हमारे पास 485 लोग ही रह जाते हैं, which is less than 500. So the population will decrease. When there are more births than the number of deaths, then population increases. अब death क्यों होती है? Why does death happen? It can happen because of natural calamities. It can happen because of certain events like wars, right? उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा death होती है. But in general, if you look at earlier times, problem ये थी कि there was no proper health care available. ठीक है, doctors, hospitals, awareness about the medical condition, accessibility to medical condition, all of this was not there so much. And food supply for everyone, food security for everyone, good food, balanced diet, ये सारी चीज़ों को लेके भी awareness नहीं थी, तो लोग बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छा नहीं खाते थे, बहुत healthy diet सब लोग नहीं लेते थे, right? Hi Shibani, good evening, welcome to the session. So naturally, bache, when you don't have a very good health care, you're not having a great food, you're not in your utmost health, you're not in the most best scenario of your health condition, है ना? Hi Adya, good evening. Medical facilities नहीं होती थी, सही बात है, ठीक है, limited होती थी. पहले इतना advance नहीं था, इतना कुछ available नहीं था, इतनी awareness नहीं थी, इतनी सारी treatments नहीं थी. For example, problems like cancer and TB and COVID जैसे issues, ये सारी चीज़ों का treatment हमारे पास नहीं था, which is present now. So for all of these reasons, people used to die more. There was less amount of care that was possibly available to them to access. So for all of these reasons हम देखते हैं कि food का supply कम था, death rate ज़्यादा थी, तो population was not growing as much. But after 1800 we became more aware, more educated, more technologically advanced. हमारे पास better system आ गई, ज़्यादा awareness आ गई, लोग ज़्यादा पढ़ाई करने लग गए, ज़्यादा discoveries होने लग गई, and then people also became aware about their food habits, their lifestyle. और इस सारी चीज़ों की वजह से क्या होने लग गया, धीरे धीरे लोगों की ज़िंदगी बेटर होने लगी, तो the death, number of deaths started reducing. So the increase in the number of individuals in a population over a time is what refers to population growth, which is when if the number of people were 500 in the past 5 years, but now it has become 725 in the next 5 years. तो क्या हुआ, population grow कर गया, 500 से 725 it reached. So growth is influenced by 3 factors. Population change in simple, it's not just growth, it is the population change. कहीं का भी जो population change है, it is affected by these 3 factors. Number of people who are born over there, number of people who die over there, and migration. अब ये migration क्या है? We'll talk about it in a quick moment. Varied growth rates across countries due to different birth and death rates. So which means this change that is happening in the population is not constant for all the countries. ठीक है, you may be feeling that अरे overall in the world the population has increased, but you will still find countries where the population on the contrary would have decreased. On an average it might have increased for the entire world. तो पूरी दुनिया की population जो है बच्चे, वो हर एक देश में, for every country it is not happening in the same way. There are countries which are growing very fast in their population. There are countries which are growing slowly in their population. But there are also countries which are not growing in population, are constant or are declining. So it depends on those 3 factors. जिसमें से पहला हमारा क्या आ जाता है? The very first one is birth rate. Birth rate refers to the number of people born. But that is birth. Rate, when you add, rate is on every 1,000 people who are alive, हर एक 1,000 लोग जो जिंदा हैं, उन पे कितने लोगों का जन्म हुआ. So what you do is you take a sample set of 1,000 people and find in these 1,000 people how many people were born. And that is how you basically determine the birth rate. It reflects the fertility of population and impacts the population growth. It basically tells us how healthy a population is, how much they are capable of producing a child, how healthy the child is to be able to survive as an adult and grows up as an individual. So that is what birth rate refers to. So let's say if there is a place where 125 children or maybe 65 children were born, okay, in 65 different families, but those families together is of 1,000 people. So this is the birth rate of those 1,000 people. ठीक है, 65 born on those 1,000 individuals. ये birth rate है, and this is the birth number of births that happen. Similarly, we determine the death rate also. But before we move on to the death rate, let's quickly understand answer this question. Which of the following does not affect population change? इनमें से कौन सा factor population change को affect नहीं करता है? Migration, death rate, birth rate, or density of a population? Which of the following factors does not affect the growth of population or does not change the population? Okay, and Adya has answered absolutely correct and perfect timing. Migration, death rate, birth rate, ये तीनों factors जो है population के number को affect करती है. Population density has got nothing to do with population change. ठीक है? Okay. Now talking about death rates, again similarly as birth rates, अगर मान लो कहीं पे 35 deaths हुई, ठीक है, over 1,000 people, this is what will give you the death rate. So for every 1,000 alive people as a sample set, how many people died on top of them will give you the death rate. This is the number of deaths. So basically number of deaths or birth upon 1,000 people. In 1,000 लोगों में जो भी changes आएंगे will give you the death rate or birth rate. ठीक है? Influences, of course, the population change has a great effect on the change of population. If death rate decreases, population growth will increase. Naturally, if less people are dying, more people are getting born, then the population will change, it will increase. ठीक है? So the difference between death rate and birth rate always has to be there. If death rate is higher, then population will decrease. If birth rate is higher, population will increase. ठीक है? Now talking about difference between birth rate and death rate in population, that is what gives us the pace of population change, and this is as per the natural causes. So this is the regular natural cause. We are not taking any external cause like a natural calamity, koi disaster in case of a tsunami, a storm or earthquake. We are not talking about these things. We are not talking about any wars. We are not talking about accidents. We are talking in general by natural process when everything is untouched and going seamlessly. Normal जैसे कुछ चलना चाहिए वैसे चल रहा है, वैसे केस में जो difference है वो natural growth rate होता है between the difference between the birth rate and the death rate. ठीक है? So the term population change describes a shift in the total population at a certain point in time. The population of the planet has not been steady. Actually, this is a result of variation in the rates of births and deaths. The dash is the difference between a nation's birth rate and death rate. Average density, population change, natural growth rate, or life expectancy. Read the statement very, very carefully and you will be able to answer. Okay. Student has answered absolutely correct in perfect timing. Dhanush and Tanmay have taken an attempt. Adya and Rafan Hussain have also taken an attempt. But this is natural growth rate. Population change, of course, is determined by birth rate and death rate, but not necessarily by just these two factors. Population change also has migration as a factor. That is why population change will not be the answer. अभी हमने previous slide में क्या पढ़ा? The difference between birth rate and death rate in a population is what gives us the natural growth rate. इन दोनों के बीच का difference is what will determine that, right? Okay. What will happen if death rate and birth rate are equal? Adya, in that case, the population will remain constant. There will be no changes happening. It will remain as is. कहीं पे मान लो for 20 years, the number of deaths were equal to number of births. Then, for those 20 years, there will be no population change of that area. Okay? Now, talking about migration. What do you mean by the term migration? It's very easy. Migration means movement. आउट ऑफ सम प्लेस और इनटू सम प्लेस, या कहीं से जाना या कहीं पे जाना, ठीक है, उसको माइग्रेशन कहते हैं. इट मे हैपन विद इन द कंट्री, इट मे हैपन आउटसाइड द कंट्री. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अ पर्सन मे मूव फ्रॉम वन विलेज टू अनदर विलेज इन द सेम नेशन, or from the village to a city in the same nation, but that is within the country. If they are moving outside the country, example, India से Canada you go, you move to Japan, you move to US, that is migration outside the country, okay? So movement of people in and out of an area is referred to as migration. It will affect the population size. It can be within a country or between multiple countries. How will it affect the size? Let's say in a village, 700 people used to stay. Eventually, over a period of time, 50 people moved out of there to go and stay in the city. So the population of 700 would have dropped to 650. Whereas the population of city, it has gained 50 people. So if it was 1500, it will become 1550 people. So the population has changed. Similarly for a nation also, if the country's total population was, let's say, 1 lakh people, but वहाँ से 10,000 people went to some other nation. So the population of the nation will now become 90,000, and those 10,000 people will get added in the nation's population that they now stay in. But migration happens in two ways. दो तरीके से होती है migration. Migration can be arrival of individuals into a new country or area. इसको immigration कहते हैं, which means coming into. So if people are moving in the nation, it is called immigration. If people are moving out the nation, out of the nation, then it is, or an area, it is called emigration. Now this has also greatly affected population of multiple countries. For example, we know for a fact that countries like Canada, countries like USA, countries like Australia, they're inviting people, they have more opportunities of jobs and different higher education institutions. बहुत तरीके के colleges हैं, jobs हैं, जो attract करते हैं लोगों को दूसरे देशों से. So people from the other countries are trying to move to these countries and settle them. So a lot of immigration, which means a lot of coming in of people, is happening in these countries like US and Australia. So they are experiencing a change in the population, not just because of the birth rate and the death rate. सिर्फ बर्थ रेट और डेथ रेट की वजह से नहीं, पर यहाँ पे इमिग्रेशन, मूवमेंट ऑफ पीपल इनटू द कंट्री की वजह से भी दे आर एक्सपीरियंसिंग द चेंजेस. ठीक है. Whereas there are also countries where more departure is happening of individuals, people are moving out of the country. India is also experiencing a lot of departure, but a lot of movement and all of that is also happening. But countries like Sudan, they are experiencing a fall down in their population, loss in their population, because a lot of people are moving out of Sudan. They're moving to other countries. Normally, the trend that we see, bache, is that people move from underdeveloped areas to developed areas, or underdeveloped or developing countries to developed countries. So, when we are saying underdeveloped areas, what we mean is where less job opportunities and technological advancement and growth is there. For example, from village, people tend to move to cities. From a smaller country or a developing nation, underdeveloped nation, people move to developed nation. For example, people from Sudan will move to US or Australia because better job opportunities, better payment, more job security, better exposure, ज़्यादा education मिल सकता है, better institutes मिल सकते हैं education के, better lifestyle हो सकती है. So that is what migration refers to. Immigration is moving in of people and emigration is moving out of people. ठीक है. So patterns of population change की अगर बात की जाए, so different varying rates of population growth across countries have been observed due to different birth and death rates. In fact, within the same nation, you will see one state may be having a different population change. कहीं पे population बढ़ रहा है, कहीं population घट रहा है, कहीं ज़्यादा तेजी से बढ़ रहा है, कहीं ज़्यादा तेजी से घट रहा है. It is different for different nations and different areas. Some experience high growth because their birth rate is high, like Kenya, while others have low growth due to low birth and death rates like UK. So UK में death rate is higher, birth rate is lower. So the population is decreasing in a way over a period of time, whereas in places like Kenya, in places like India, more births are happening compared to the number of deaths that's happening. So the population is increasing in these places. So natural growth of population is happening in these places like Kenya, India, whereas it is the opposite in places like UK or Japan also for that matter. ठीक है. चलो next question है, arrival of individuals into a new country or area, what kind of migration is this? Is this immigration or is this emigration? इसको क्या बोलोगे? When new individuals are moving into a country or an area, they're shifting to this place, what will this change be known as? Immigration or emigration? बताओ बच्चों, Tanmay has answered absolutely correct in perfect timing. Student has also answered correctly. In fact, very, very fast. Okay, student knew the answer very well. Okay, we have also received the answer from Dhanush. Kya baat hai? Others, Adya, Rashi, Rafan Hussain. Hi, Babar Azam. I used to, bache, I have been here for more than a year now. Okay, and the correct answer. Okay, Rafan ने भी दे दिया है सही जवाब, बहुत ही बढ़िया. And in correct timing, it is immigration, you guys. Immigration is when people move out of a area. ठीक है? But I think when you log in is where you get the option. Okay? चलो, अब बात करते हैं population composition की. When we refer to population composition. Structure of a population based on age, sex, literacy, occupation is what refers to population composition. What do you mean by the word composition? Composition refers to what is something made up of. किन चीज़ों से कोई भी सामान बना है उनको composition कहते हैं, है ना? कि for example, if I tell you that, if I ask you what is this cake composed of? किन चीज़ों से बनाई है केक? तो you'll tell me कि अरे इसके composition में we have some flour, we have some sugar, we have some oil. All of these elements together make this. Similarly, a population has various elements in which it can be divided, right? It is made up of. Okay? बच्चे जब आप student, when you open your account, ठीक है, when you open on the top right, you will see your name, or maybe on the left, depending upon phone or laptop you're using, you have to go into your profile. ठीक है, find your profile में जा करके you can change your name. Cool? So similarly, बच्चे, wherever you're talking about a population of a nation or an area, it will be composed of various things. A population may be made up of various gender. A population may be made up of various religion. A population may be made up of various races. It may be made up of various, various factors like literate people, illiterate people. So these are few factors in which we can understand the population in depth and specifications of an area. किसी भी जगह के population को हम समझ सकते हैं ये जान के कि कितने लोग पढ़े लिखे हैं, कितने मर्द हैं, कितनी औरतें हैं, कितने बुजुर्ग हैं, कितने जवान हैं, कितने बच्चे हैं. All of these features, based on all of these features, when you divide the population, that is what gives you the population composition. ठीक है? It helps us understand the details of the population. It helps us understand how can we utilize this population, how resourceful is this population. For example, if you find a population which has mostly elder people, then that is not very useful because the working population is less over there. तो काम करने वाली जनता कम है अगर, तो पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे? नौकरी करने वाले लोग भी कम होंगे. Number of working people who are adding and contributing into the finances and economy and earning of the country will also be less. ठीक है? So few of these factors we are going to understand right now. The very first one is sex ratio. Sex ratio basically refers to the ratio of the gender. How many men is to how many women are there? As in, if I have taken 1,000 people randomly of an area, in those 1,000 people, how many are men, how many are women? When you take out and determine that ratio, that gives you the sex ratio. So the ratio of males to females in a population, it will of course affect the social dynamics and development, right? These are factors which helps us study the population, the changes that are happening. Literacy rate will be the percentage of people that can read and write. How many people are read and educated? ठीक है, कितने लोग पढ़ सकते हैं, लिख सकते हैं? There's a certain level to it. People who are able to at least spell out the alphabets and read till certain numbers, read their name, sign their name, are considered to be literate in India. तो ऐसे कितने लोग हैं जो इतनी बेसिक पढ़ाई कर पा रहे हैं, उनको हम लिटरेसी रेट में काउंट करते हैं, बाकी लोगों को नहीं करते हैं, बाकी लोग इलिटरेट माने जाते हैं. So it helps you again understand, okay, if these many, if a country has 95% of literacy, it's very good. That country naturally will be working towards the better. More development will happen, more jobs will be created, more number of people will be employed, more money will be earned. But if there is a country which only has 42% of literacy rate, that in itself will explain that the people over there will struggle with job opportunities. They'll be earning less. A lot of people will suffer with being unemployed or will be poor. तो ऐसे कई सारे डिटेल्स, a lot of such details can be determined from such factors. So literacy rate is percent of population that can read and write. It will affect the education and development indicators of the nation. ठीक है, कितना देश बढ़ रहा है, कितना नहीं पढ़ रहा है. Then the rural urban distribution, which is very clear. How many people are living in villages to how many people are living in towns and cities. That ratio also helps us understand a lot. That how will the cities develop, why there is more pressure on the cities if there is more population in the cities. If there is more population in villages, which means the cities are not so developed, so people have still not moved from villages to cities. All of these details can help you understand a lot of other factors. So it in simple, if I have to tell you, this is a data, these are data points which will help you draw conclusion. ये वो data points है जिनके basis पे आप कई सारे अपने conclusions draw कर सकते हो, एक अंदाज़ा लगा सकते हो कि अच्छा यहाँ पे ये इसलिए होता होगा, वहाँ पे वो इसलिए होता होगा. It impacts the infrastructure, employment and the social dynamics of that place. So let's quickly answer the question. People living in towns and cities, what are they termed as? Rural population, urban population, literates or working population. What do you call the people? Ayush, I'm really glad. What do you call the people who are staying in towns and cities? Towns और cities में जो लोग रहते हैं, उन्हें हम कैसे refer करते हैं? Ayush has answered absolutely correct. Hussain has taken an attempt. Cities and towns बच्चे कौन सा area कहलाता है? Urban area. So people staying there will be known as the urban population. ऐसे वाले जगह में रहने वाले लोगों को हम शहरों में urban population, शहरी लोग कहते हैं. Similarly, you have the age composition. ठीक है, it tells you about the distribution of population in the different age groups. Is it a young child, adolescent, young or old? So it gives us an insight about the demographic structure, education level, occupation, income, health condition. And if there's a lot of young population, we will expect the working force is more healthy. Okay, more income can be there. If more of the people are older, then you will expect the opposite, less income. Okay? Thank you, Baba. That's very sweet of you. Thank you so much. So all of these details can be guessed from age composition. Okay? Critical for understanding the dependency ratio. For example, dependency ratio क्या हो गया? How many individuals are dependent on other individuals for their survival? For example, if I'm an old woman, I become an old woman. I won't be able to work. I'm not earning. So I will be dependent on somebody who's young, maybe my child, who's earning to take care of me for my survival. Or if I'm not earning in general, I don't work, then I would need somebody to take care of me who earns, who's educated, who's working. So ये सारा detail हमें that who are the resources, who are not the resources, you can guess from all of these details of the composition of the population. ठीक है? Now talking about the population pyramid. Pyramid क्या होता है? Pyramid के बारे में आपने पढ़ा होगा, इजिप्ट में हमने देखा हुआ है. ठीक है? तो it's basically this triangular structure where it is broader at the bottom and keeps growing sharper as you go ahead, right? Graphical representation illustrating, showing the age-sex distribution of a population is referred to as the population pyramid. एक ऐसा graph, ठीक है, graph which shows you the representation of age of different people, ठीक है, their gender, all of these things. That is what is referred to as the population pyramid. It shows the total population divided in age brackets. For example, 5 to 9 years, 10 to 14 years. So you divide them in various age brackets and you draw a graph for a better understanding instead of just looking at numbers. Graph ज़्यादा help करती हैं, है ना? And the percentage of males and females in each group. हर एक group में कितने लड़के कितनी लड़कियां हैं वो भी दिखता है हमें. ठीक है. Then pyramid shape reflects the birth and death rates of a population as well. A broad base indicates high birth rates with a large number of children. ठीक है. Narrowing towards the top due to high infant mortality. Example, Kenya's pyramid illustrates high birth and death rates resulting in fewer older individuals. So, bache, what we are trying to tell over here is in simplest form. Different numbers will form different graphs. And from those different graphs, you can have an understanding of the difference between the population composition of different countries and areas. केनिया में जैसे हमें दिखता है कि बर्थ रेट्स आर ऑल्सो हाई बट डेथ रेट्स आर ऑल्सो हाई. So there's not a lot of difference between the birth and number of people being born and number of people dying. So population will not very remarkably change. बहुत बड़ा change नहीं आएगा. तो जो बूढ़े होने वाले लोग हैं वो भी कम होंगे, less older individuals, because a lot of older people are dying, but a lot of new people are also getting born. Ultimately older people जो है वो less हो रही हैं केनिया जैसे जगह में. तो ऐसे जो ग्राफ्स हैं हमें वो ये सारी चीजें समझने में बहुत ज्यादा मदद करते हैं. डिक्रीजिंग डेथ रेट रिजल्ट्स इन ब्रॉडर बेस इन यंगर एज ग्रुप्स. सो अगर डेथ रेट जो है किसी भी जगह का कम है, सो द पिरामिड दैट इज ड्रॉन विल हैव अ ब्रॉडर बेस फॉर यंगर एज ग्रुप्स बिकॉज डेथ इज लेस. सो ऊपर डेथ कम हो जाती है, नीचे बड़ा रहेगा ग्राफ. It is seen in India's pyramid indicating that more infants are surviving to a larger young population. Death rate ज़्यादा होगी तो वो मतलब infant mortality rate ज़्यादा होगी. ज़्यादा बच्चे 1 साल के होने के पहले अगर मर जा रहे हैं, survive नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. और ये क्यों होता है? Because of poor health conditions, people not being healthy, malnourished, which is very sad. So healthcare and all of those things becomes a concerning factor, and here population growth does not happen as much. लो बर्थ रेट्स जैसे कि जापान का पिरामिड, इट लीड्स टू अ नैरो बेस. तो बेस नैरो होगी बिकॉज बर्थ रेट कम है. ठीक है. सो यू कैन सी वेरियस शेप्स वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. ऑल दीज शेप्स विल हेल्प अस अंडरस्टैंड एंड स्टडी द डिफरेंट ग्राफ्स ऑफ डिफरेंट पीपल. ठीक है. बाबर, ऑफ कोर्स आई विल बी डूइंग अ सेशन ऑन दैट फॉर 10 स्टूडेंट्स, डोंट वरी. It emphasizes the importance of educating and empowering the youthful population for national progress and productivity. But if you remember, I have been telling you that human themselves are a resource. जब वो खुद resource है तो we need to invest in them. What is the investment that we can make in humans? Educate them, give them good health care. When they're educated, they'll any which ways be more informed about what to eat and how to take good care of themselves, be more healthier, plus a healthy environment, good healthcare facilities will also enable them to do that. And that is how the population will only grow and prosper, not go the other way, down, where the growth is not happening. Let's quickly answer this question. What will be the base of the population pyramid with high birth and high death rate? Narrow या फिर ब्रॉड? Okay guys, let's see. Dhanush, very nice. Ayush and Tanmay have also answered correctly. Good job. Hussain ने भी attempt लिया है and it will be broad. ठीक है? चलो. So with this, we have in fact finished the chapter. That's all the population change chapter was about. Human resource chapter was about. You'll be learning more about it in class 9th in 2 chapters, human as a resource and people as a resource, as well as population. ये दोनों chapters आपको class 9 में पढ़ने हैं, and all that we have read now will be more detailed in these 2 chapters next year. Let's quickly summarize. We saw that population change encompasses shifts due to 3 factors. 3 चीजों से affect होती है वो, birth, death and migration. Historically पहले हम देखते थे death और food supply की वजह से death rate was higher and population was growing slowly, but post 1800 it has improved. Growth fluctuates with births and deaths, ठीक है, varying across countries based on birth and death rates. Demographics include birth and death rates along with migrations impact. That is what creates an impact on population size. Composition covers age, gender, education and occupation, critical for resource understanding. It's very important to read the specifics of population to plan the schemes and development of a nation. ठीक है? And age structure distribution impacts the workforce and societal needs depicted visually in a population pyramid reflecting birth and death rate impacts on the population's age distribution. ठीक है? So with this guys, we are going to have a revision session. We are going to have a lot of other chapters being picked up. Next week bhi aapki class hai. Please make sure to check out the Embibe app or website and register yourself. Do not forget to check out the Embibe lens and join our Telegram channel. Here is the link and here is the QR code. ठीक है? तो इसी के साथ I am going to wind up the session now. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you guys very soon. Till then, take good care of yourselves. Have a great evening. Stay, stay tuned and keep imbibing.
Keep imbibing. We believe in you.